In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read ancient tomes, the order of the Abercast. We are the brave and bold.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Stigmata Studios presents The Jinn Jihad. The Jinn Jihad kicks your face with myths, mysteries, epic battles, suicide bombers, quirky characters, and divine power armor. In this epic graphic novel, the warrior archangels descend on a city in chaos. It's all-out war. The non-standard assembly battles an ancient terrorist organization and their ultimate weapon, a corrected, magically enhanced, unstoppable monster, the Jinn. This graphic novel is a wild ride. It's one part distant Arab myth, one part Old Testament angelic vengeance, and one part unique heroic tough guys. Available on Amazon. Get more info on the Jinn Jihad and other titles at stigmatastudios.com.
When the men began to increase in numbers on earth, and the daughters were born unto them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. If days will be 120 years, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards. When the sons of God went to the daughters of men, and they had children with them, they were the heroes of old, the men of renown. The Lord saw how great men's wickedness on the earth had become, and that they became inclination of the thoughts of his hearts was only evil all the time. The Lord was grieved that he had made men on the earth, and that his heart was filled with pain. So the Lord said, I will wipe mankind from whom I have created from the face of the earth, men and animals and creatures that move along the ground and birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. This is the account of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. Noah and his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now that the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and was full of violence, God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on the earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all the people on the earth. It is filled with violence. Because of them, I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. It was Genesis 6, 1 through 13.
The Abercast. Occult. History. Conspiracy. Violence.
The Abercast. I'm your unappreciated stripper, John Towers. So thank you guys. This is basically part 2 of episode 81, which we got into first Enoch, and I explained a bunch of stuff in the first episode. So if you're starting here, just back up, pump the brakes, and just back up and listen to the last episode 80. Listen to episode 82, because this is episode 83. And explain a lot of stuff. One of the things I'm explain is all the other episodes that this leaks into. So basically, it could leak into, it depends on where I go, episode 20, Those Who Weep for Tammuz. Episode 25, The Golem and Other Jew Wizardry. Episode 37, The Book of Job, God versus Leviathan. The Age of Aquarius, episode 48, maybe. Episode 53 and 54, the Revelation 12 sign and the sign of Jonah. And let's see, what else we got. Episode 63, The Giant of Kandahar. You might want to check that one out. Episode 70, The Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. And episode 71, World War Zero and Adam's Magical Underpants. No. Episode 76, Terrifying Angels of Genesis. Yeah, that's about it. And then last episode. So you guys get the picture. Okay, so where do we leave off? Because I don't have time for all this social media, begging for rate and review, so fuck all that. Where do we leave off? So basically, we left off about a little bit through first Enoch, and we explained kind of like the sort of like the status quo of the universe, where they start off by talking about the seasons and stuff, and they're like, this is how nature works. We have these seasons and these angels that look after the seasons and everything. And then they start talking about these Gregory or the Watcher angels, who are just hanging out watching Earth people. They're watching the Earth chicks, dude, and they get this idea. They crack this idea where they're like, you know what? We could probably just go down there and fuck those Earth chicks. This is a bunch of angels, a bunch of salacious, dirty motherfucking angels. And they're like, we could probably just go down there and just do it. We'll just do it. And the leader is like, well, I'm afraid, like, if this is my harebrained idea, and I'm afraid if I go down there and do it, you guys won't follow me. So all the other angels were like, no, bro, we're definitely going to follow you. So they do a pact. They make a pact, and they are saying, this is going to be our pact. We're going to go down there, we're going to fuck some Earth chicks. And we swear we're all going to do it. So it's like, word is bond, son. Let's go fuck some Earth chicks. So they go down there, and let me see, hold on. Bop, doop, doop. And they start fucking Earth chicks, and they start taking these Earth chicks, and then while they're down there, they're also being like, yo, you know what would be really hot is if you did eye makeup. And so one of them was like, you would be totally fabulous with green eyeshadow. And so they would teach the women how the beautification of eyelids. And then they were like, you know what would also be great is if you could make tea for me, because I don't feel like making my tea all the time. So it's like you could make tea for me. So they're like, they teach these earth people, they teach these earth chicks like how to use the plants and the cutting of roots. And they're also like, they're laying there, they're fucking chicks, and then afterwards they're looking up at the sky, enjoying their Newports, as people do from time to time. And they're like, hey man, you see that star up there? You know what that shit means? And so they teach the women, they teach the daughters of men the movement of the stars and the signs of the sky. And they're like, oh, hey, we should probably get inside because it's going to rain. And the humans were like, hey, angel, how do you know it's going to rain? Is it some magic? Is it some angelic magic? And the angel was like, no, bro, you see when the clouds are like that, that means it's going to rain. Plus, I can feel it in my knee, yo, old army accident. Old army injury. I can feel it in my knee. So they're like, wait, what do you mean? When the clouds are high like this and there's a lot of them and they're gray, that means it's going to rain? So they teach mankind the ways of the clouds. So basically they're teaching a bunch of stuff. And also another thing they're doing is, hey, you know, you're fighting also with this other tribe next door. Dude, it would be great if you had swords, because they don't have fucking swords. And you could make a sword and you could fucking stab people. Then the humans are like, I don't even know what a sword is. I have like this log that I hit people with. And he's like, no, it's a lot like a log, but it's metal and it's sharp. And then the human's like, what do you mean metal? What is metal? And he's like, okay, here, bros, I'm going to show you. So they start showing people metallurgy and how to work the metal to make steel and how to forge the steel into weapons so they can murder people. So the angels are down here. Not only are they like, skeet, 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 bam, bam, chicka, chicka, chicka. They're having these monstrous offspring that are like taking all the resources and then cannibalizing people because they're starving to death. And like the people that are alive, they are like running around making guns, well, making swords and shit because they taught them how to make swords and shit. And then there's like weathermen, and then there's like chicks running around with pretty eyelids because it's all going crazy. These angels introducing themselves into this system has literally driven the whole thing crazy. And so we get to this part where the people are lamenting towards heaven, and they're like, look at all this shit. These motherfuckers fucked it all up. And 4 archangels are at the gates, and they're like, man, that shit sounds whack. And they're looking at God, and they're like, yo, Hey, what's up, Teddy Grammatron? What's up, Teddy Grammatron? What you gonna do about all this? Listen to all this bullshit these humans are saying. It's because your angels were off the hook, yo. And then Teddy Grammatron's like, look, man, I'm gonna have to go sort this shit out. I feel like God is like Huggy Bear to me right now, like an old school Starsky and Hutch Huggy Bear pimp, where he's like, yo, I gotta go sort my hose out. So we're gonna get into where God's brain is at during this. That's the effective summary. That's where we are. If you skipped the last episode, you're all up to speed now. Huggy Bear. And we're going to get into what God says about all this stuff and his plan after this, which is still kind of like a recap, but we're going to get into chapter 10 of First Enoch, and then we're going to move forward, and we're going to try to get through this fucking thing tonight, because I want to post it up. I want to post that shit up. Boom. Bam, bam. Bam, bam. Waka waka. Then said the Most High, the Holy and the Great One spake and sent Uriel, the son of Lamech, and said to him, Go to Noah and tell him, in my name hide thyself, and reveal to him that the end is approaching, and the whole earth will be destroyed, and the deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that they may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, Bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert which Dudiel, and cast him therein, and place upon rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face that he may not see a light. And on the day of the great judgment he shall be cast into the fire, and heal the earth, which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish through the secret things that the watcher have disclosed, and have taught their sons. And the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel, and him ascribe all sin. And to Gabriel said the Lord, Proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and again at the children of fornication, to destroy the children of fornication and the children of the watchers from amongst men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For length of days shall they not have, and no request that they or their fathers make of thee shall be granted unto their fathers on their behalf. For they hope to live an eternal life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. And the Lord saith unto Michael, Go and bind Semjeziah and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as have defiled themselves with all their uncleanliness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations into the valleys of the earth, until the day of judgment and their consummation, until the judgment that is forever and ever consummated. In those days thou shalt be led off into the abyss of fire, into the torment and the prisons, in which they shall be confined forever. And whosoever shall be condemned and destroyed will from thenceforth be bound together with them in the end of all their generations, and destroy all the spirits and all the reprobate and all the children of the watchers, because they have wronged mankind. Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth, and let every evil work come to an end, and let the plant of righteousness and truth appear, and it shall prove a blessing. The works of the righteous and the truth shall be planted in truth and joy forevermore. And then shall all the righteous escape, and shall live till they beget thousands of children. And all the days of their youth and all their old age shall they complete in peace. And then shall the whole earth be tiled in righteousness, and shall be planted with trees, and be full of blessings. So they go on, and this is kind of him resetting. At the very beginning of the first Enoch, he starts off with this whole thing about these trees, and how their leaves die every year, and they come back in the springtime. So this is God basically saying, we're going to fuck everything up, and we're going to turn it back. We're going to turn the clock back to fucking zero. And he finishes up and he goes, and all the nations shall offer adoration and praise me. It shall worship me, and the earth shall be cleansed from all defilement, and from all sin, and from all punishment, and from all torment. And I will never again send them it from generation to generation forever. So it basically resets everything. And this is kind of where that's his plan. We all know that he fucks this all up. Like, he doesn't kill... he doesn't kill all the giants. He doesn't reset men's perchant to sin. He doesn't change. He really doesn't change anything. He just narrows his scope. Instead of dealing with a whole bunch of people he's got to worry about wearing wrong clothes or fucking wrong people or doing wrong whatever. He's just got to worry about like this one family now, he thinks, and he's like, just everything's just going to be great. We all know that he just messes this up epically, just fucks this whole thing up. You know, obviously there's giants all throughout the rest of the Bible. Well, at least the Old Testament. He's got the Jews running around on their way to the Holy Land, just murdering whole just kingdoms and tribes of these giants, just because he fucked all this up. So this is where Enoch comes in. I thought I would just take a second to read from the Encyclopedia of Occultism, where he's talking about Enoch. Now you have to understand it. This encyclopedia doesn't really address this, but there's been more than one Enoch even up until this point. Even in super early Genesis, I think, Cain escapes and he marries a woman, and his first son's name is Enoch, and he also builds the first city. And the first city the city he builds first, it's the first city ever. He builds this city, and he also names it Enoch. So I'm guessing this guy gets named Enoch because it's some sort of throwback to, this rebel son. So this is what the Encyclopedia of Occultism by Lewis Spence has to say about Enoch. Enoch is the seventh master of the world after Adam, and author of the Kabbalah and the Book of the Tarot. He is identified with Thoth of the Egyptians and Cadmus of the Phoenicians and of Palamedes of the Greeks. According to tradition, he did not die, but he was carried up to heaven, whence he will return at the end of time. So this kind of makes him as like a pre-Christ figure. You know, like super duper pre-Christ figure. Like he's being translated up into heaven. We're going to get more to that story here towards a little bit, but so he gets translated up into heaven, and he actually becomes a, in some traditions, in the rabbinic tradition of the Kabbalah, he becomes the main archangel. He's like the most powerful archangel. So there is that. And like I said, we're going to get into it. I got into it a little bit in the last episode and all that stuff. Hold on. So there is also an entry about the Book of Enoch here, and it's huge. It's it's a pretty big entry. I'm just going to skip down here towards the end. This is referring to what we're talking about and reading tonight. So in the account, we see description of the profanation of mysteries, the fallen angels exposed their occult and heaven-born wisdom to earthly women, whereby it was profaned, and the brute force taking advantage of the profanation of the divine law reigned supreme. Only a deluge could wipe out the stain of the enormity and pave the way for restitution and the balance between the human and the divine, which had been disturbed by these lawful revelations. Translation of the Book of Enoch was published by the Archbishop Lawrence in 1821, and the Ethiopic text in 1838, and there was a good edition by Dillman in 1851. Philip and Edwards also written special works on the subject. So, yeah, they didn't even mention the ones we're reading from. We're actually reading from the translation of H.R. Charles in 1917. Okay, so we're up to speed now. We're back. We're ready to go, and this is where Enoch comes on to into the story. So we're going to get right in here to chapter 12. Oh, I forgot to lube up. Before these things, Enoch was hidden, and no one of the children of men knew where he was hidden, and where he abode, and what had become of him. And his activities had to do with the watchers, and his days were with the holy ones. And I, Enoch, was blessed, the Lord of majesty and the King of ages, and lo, the watchers called me Enoch the scribe, and said unto me, Enoch, thou scribe of righteousness, go and declare to the watchers of heaven, who have left the high heaven and holy eternal place, and have defiled themselves with women, and have done as the children of earth do, and have taken unto themselves wives, ye have wrought great destruction on the earth. Then ye shall have no peace or forgiveness of sin, inasmuch as they delight themselves in their children. The murder of their beloved ones shall they see, and over the destruction of their children shall they lament, and shall make supplicant unto eternity, but mercy and peace shall ye not obtain. And Enoch went and said, Azazel, thou shalt have no peace, and severe sentence has gone forth against thee to put thee in bonds, and thou shalt not have toleration or request granted to thee because of the unrighteousness which thou hast taught, and because of all the works and godliness of unrighteousness and sin which thou hast shown to men. And I went and I spoke to them all together, and they were afraid, and fear and trembling seized them. And they besought me to draw a petition for them, and they might find forgiveness, and to read their petition in the presence of the Lord of heaven, and from thenceforth they could speak with him, nor lift up their eyes to heaven for shame and their sins from which they had been condemned. Then I wrote out their petition and the prayers in regards to their spirits and their deeds, individually in regards to their request that they should have forgiven. They should have forgiveness and length of days. And I went off and sat down at the waters of Dan, in the land of Dan, in the southwest of Hermon, and read their petitions until I fell asleep. So, all right. Hold on. All right, so he's dealing with these angels, and these angels, apparently, they seem like they know that he's going to go up to talk to God. Because they're like, yo, hey, no one knows where you are. He's become a hermit. He's like hiding out in caves and stuff. None of the other human beings know where Enoch is. And these angels come and they're like, yo, we know, somehow, apparently, they know he's going up to talk to God. And they're like, look, man, you need to write our shit down. And when you get up there, you can plead our case to God. And he's like, wait, hold on, you guys really fucked up. Like, nothing I could say is going to be able to fix this stuff. And they're like, no, just go ahead and write it down. So he wrote it down and he went and he's like meditating. In my mind, he's got his feet dipped in the water and he's got like a pina colada next to him and he's got like a big sun hat and he's just reading through everyone's testimony. So he's like prepared when he goes up to visit God, and then he falls asleep. In my stories, especially in the Ages graphic novel, is whenever we talk about the eating the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, it's booze. Like like Cyrus has like a wine press in like the background of some of the frame in some of the super early frames of the Ages. So it's like it's always about, in my particular idiom, as Galahad would say, my particular idiom, it's always booze. So when I have this idea of like Enoch kicked back with a daiquiri, or Mai Tai or whatever, like this is him like loosening up, bro. You know. Also, another thing here is where he's saying that you're not gonna be able to see God anymore, and the angels are like, that's fucked up. And years ago, I had a buddy who reached out to me. He was writing a book, and he had a specific question, and he says, like, if you could somehow torture an angel, what would you do? Like, how would you do it? And my answer was this. It was like, if you have an angel who's not fallen from grace or whatever, what you got to do is you got to separate them from the power of God. You know, you're like, well, what does that mean? Like, how does that look? And I'm like, I don't know. That shit depends on how, like, what your story, like, what's the mechanics of your story? That's what it makes sense. But to me, the way that I would have done it, and I think I probably floated this to him, was the Lesser Key of Solomon. I'd be like, I would have attacked that 72 letter name of God, and I would have found whatever corresponding angel that I could find, find him on there. And if he wasn't represented on there, to summon and to hold in that triangle, and then just never banish him. Like he's stuck on Earth, stuck in that little triangle of manifestation. If he's just stuck there and then just like leave, brick up the building, and he's just stuck there forever, separated from he can no longer circle the throne of God singing holy, holy, holy. Like would be how you torture an angel. But if his name isn't on that 72 letter key, then what you would have to do, and this might be more drama-ish for your story or whatever, would be to use the key to summon one of these demons that could tell you all kinds of hidden things, and that creates a subplot for you or whatever, because now you have to deal with this demon, and like, what if there's a bargain to be made? Whatever you want to do. But yeah, so that was the I don't think he ever did anything with that. I think he was just like, yeah, what are you gonna do? A force field? I don't understand. I'm like, you got to read the 72. You got to read these 72 letters. You got to read the Lesser Key of Solomon, son. Maybe I should do that. I'm just going to steal that. I don't know if it's stealing, because I'm the one that came up with it. I'm going to steal it back. I'm going to steal that shit back. I'm going to jack it. So where was I? Okay. Yeah, Enoch's reading their petition. I read their petition until I fell asleep. And behold, a dream came to me, and visions fell down upon me. And I saw visions of chastisement, and a voice came bidding to me, I to tell it to the sons of heaven, and reprimand them. And when I awakened, I came unto them, and they were all sitting gathered unto me, weeping. In Abel's jowl, which is between Lebanon and Sincere, with their face covered, and I recounted before them all the visions which I had seen in sleep. And I began to speak the words of righteousness and reprimand to the heavenly watchers. Chapter 14. The book of words of righteousness and of the reprimand of eternal watchers, in accordance with the command of the Holy Great One in that vision. I saw in my sleep what I will now say with the tongue of flesh and with the breath of my mouth, which the Great One has given to men to converse therewith and understand their heart, and he has created and given to man the power of understanding the word of wisdom. So hath he created me also, and given to me the power of reprimanding the watchers, the children of heaven. So basically he's just saying, God gave me a mouth so I could do this. Like, he's like, my shit was born to fucking give these guys shit, and here we go. The Watchers, they're also called the Grigori. These are the children of heaven. These are the dudes that came down to fuck the daughters of earth, the daughters of mankind. And I wrote out your petition to my in my visions. It appeared thus, and your petition will not be granted unto you throughout all the days of eternity, and the judgment that has finally passed upon you. Yea, your petition will not be granted unto you. And from henceforth you shall not ascend into heaven unto all eternity, and in bonds of the earth and decree has gone forth to bind you for all the days of the world. This is heavy metal. He's like, I'm going to bind you. I'm going to bind you forever. You are never getting out because of what you did with your dick. Think about that, guys. Think about that. And that previously you shall have seen the destruction of your beloved sons, and ye shall have no pleasure in them, and they shall fall before you by the sword. So I'm going to lock you up. I'm going to fucking dump you in a dark cave, and all you're going to be able to see is your kids being murdered because of what you did with your dicks. And your petition on their behalf shall not be granted, nor yet your own, even though you weep and pray and speak all of the words contained in the writings which I have written. And the vision shall show to me thus. Behold, the vision clouds invited me, and a mist summoned me in the course of the stars, and their lightning sped had hastened me, and the winds and their visions caused me to fly and lifted me upwards and bore me into heaven. And I went in till I drew nigh to a wall which is built of crystal and surrounded by tongues of fire, and it began to frighten me. And I went into the tongues of fire and drew nigh into a large house which is built of crystals. This is fucking Lovecraftian. And the walls of the house were like a tessellated floor made of crystals, and its groundwork was of crystal. Its ceiling was like the path of the stars and the lightnings, and between them were fiery cherubim, and their heaven was clear as water, and flaming fire surrounded the walls, and its porthole blazed with fire. And I entered into that house, and it was hot as fire and cold as ice, and there were no delights of life therein. Fear covered me, and trembling got hold upon me, and as I quaked and I trembled, I fell upon my face and beheld a vision, and lo, there was a second house greater than the former, and the entire portal stood open before me, and it was built of flames of fire, and in every respect it was so excelled in splendor and magnificence that and extent that I could not describe to you its splendor and extent, and its floor was of fire, and above it was lightnings, and the path of the stars, and its ceiling was also flaming fire, and it looked and saw therein a lofty throne, and its appearance was crystal, and the wheels thereof were shining thereof as the shining sun, and there was a vision of cherubims, and from underneath the thrones came streams of flaming fire, so that I could not look thereon. And the great glory sat thereon, and his remnant shone more brightly than the sun, and was whiter than any snow. None of the angels could enter and could behold his face by reason of the magnificence of the glory, and no flesh could behold him. The flaming fire was round about him, and the great fire stood before him, and none around could draw nigh him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him, yet he needed no counselor. And the most holy ones were nigh to him, did not leave by the night, nor depart from him. And until I had been prostrate on my face, trembling, that the Lord called me with his own mouth, and said to me, Come hither, Enoch, and hear my word. And one of the holy ones came to me and waked me, and he made me rise up, and he approached the door, and I bowed my face downwards. So Enoch is about to piss himself. He finds himself in the presence of God, in the throne room of God, with a ceiling in the throne room that shows the path of all the stars and lightnings, and surrounded by fiery cherubim, and 10,000 people are before him, and Enoch's like, I'm a little fucking worm on a big fucking hook. Like the Crank guy, like the guy that's on Crank from The Crow. What do you feel like? I feel like a little worm on a big fucking hook. Well, now. So Enoch's petrified. A little peas coming out of Enoch. We're going to find out what God has to say to Enoch after this. All right after this, we're going to find it. Yeah. So this is God talking to Enoch. And he answered and said unto me, I heard his voice, Fear not, Enoch, thou righteous man and scribe of righteousness, approach hither and hear my voice, and go say to the watchers of heaven, who have sent thee to intercede for them, you should intercede for men and not men for you. Which is an awesome statement. He was like, look, you are forgetting your place. You are above these fucking people. So when you go down and you fuck them and you get in trouble, like, they're like, look, the law is fine with this. Like, I'm cool with it. And they're like, no, you don't understand. They're rewriting the law. They're rewriting the code just so they can fuck you over. And they're like, and he was like, come on, homie, can't you come and talk to God on our behalf? The first thing that God says to Enoch is, look, this is not your place, because these angels should be here defending you, not you being here defending these fucking angels. Wherefore have ye left a high, holy, eternal heaven, and lain with women, and defiled yourselves with these daughters of men, and taken to yourself wives, and done like the children of the earth, has begotten giants as your sons? And though ye were holy, spiritual, living the eternal life, you have defiled yourself with the blood of women and have begotten children with the blood of flesh. And as these children of men have lusted after flesh and the blood of those also do who die and perish, therefore I have given them wives also, that they might impregnate them and beget children unto them, and thus nothing might be wanting to them from earth. So they're like, hey man, you grab a burger, fuck your wife from time to time, that's the best you're gonna get. You humans. But you were formerly spiritually living the eternal life and immortal for all of the generations of the world, and therefore I have not appointed wives for you. For as for the spiritual ones in heaven, and in heaven is their dwelling, and now these giants who are produced from the spirits and the flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they are born from men, and from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on the earth, and evil spirits shall they be called. As for the spirits of heaven, in heaven spirits shall their dwelling, but for the spirits of earth, which were born upon the earth shall be their dwelling, and spirits of these giants afflict, oppression, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth, and cause trouble. They take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst, and cause offense. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of men, and against the women, because they have proceeded from them. So he's laying out the case against them. He's like, look, these people on earth are there to do stuff. They're there to eat cheeseburgers. They're there to fuck their wife from time to time, have more kids. It'd be cool. That's what they do. And then he was like, you guys, you're in heaven. You're living this immortal, eternal life. And, all you got to do is float around the throne singing holy, 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 forever. But you get to be like an angel, and that's cool. You can't mix the two. And then once he gets there, he's like, because what happens if you mix the two? You beget these fucking monstrous tyrant giants who eat even though they're not hungry, and drink even though they're not thirsty, and they lay waste to the logistics of this egalitarian civilization, and eventually they turn to cannibalism when there's no more to drink and there's no more to eat. They wind up eating people, and that's fucked up. So he's like, yo, this is it, man. I've already kind of told you twice what's going to happen. You're going to get locked up. We're going to put chains in front of your face so you can never see the sunlight again. You're just going to have to witness your sons and your giant monstrous sons die by the flaming swords of repulsion. These angels are going to... Well, they don't even send angels down to kill them. They're just like, we're going to make them kill each other, and then we're going to flood them. We're going to flush the fucking toilet on them. And that should do it. We're going to flood the world. And that should kill all the giants. Wah, wah, wah. Except for, Goliath and his 3 brothers, and the king, Oog. And, those guys. They have beds that are 13 feet long. And all the berries in the land of Canaan, who were like bowling balls and globes, or whatever the fucking thing was. Alright, I'm losing. I gotta get back on track. Here we go. Whoa! Did we already do this one? So chapter 16. From the days of the slaughter and destruction and death of the giants, from the souls of whose flesh the spirits have gone forth, shall destroy without incurring judgment. Thus shall they destroy until the days of consummation, the great judgment in which the age shall be consummated. There's a lot of consummation going on here. Over the watchers and the godless, yea, shall be wholly consummated. And now, as the watchers who have sent thee to intercede for them, and had been aforetime in heaven, say to them, ye have been in heaven, but all the mysteries had not been revealed to you. And you know, worthless ones, and these and the hardness of your hearts you have made known to the women, and through these mysteries women and men work much evil on the earth. Say to them, therefore, you have no peace. So, that's kind of where we're going to stop. That's not actually where we're going to stop, but that's where we're going to stop with First Enoch. I want to jump ahead to 3 Enoch, which is the Ethiopian text, which is way crazier. So here's 3 Enoch 9:1-5, and this is kind of where we're going to go with the rest of the thing. Rabbi Ishmael said, Metatron, Prince of the Divine Presence, said to me, in addition to all of these qualities, the Holy One, blessed be He, laid His hand upon me and blessed me with 1,365,000 blessings. I was enlarged and increased in size until I matched the world in length and breadth. And He made me grow 72 wings, 36 on one side and 36 on the other. And each single wing covered the entire world. And He fixed me 365,000 eyes, and each eye was like the great light. There was no sort of splendor, brilliance, brightness, or beauty in the luminaries of the world that He failed to fix me in. So this is 3 Enoch. This is the part of his transformation, where our chap Enoch goes into heaven. He gets translated into heaven without dying, which we got a little bit of that. There's a large part of First Enoch that we just skipped, and I find it interesting, but for the most part, unreadable. Like, he goes on this journey with Uriel, and he's talking about like all these different ports he's looking at, and like the weather conditions and stuff, and the directions that he's pointing at, and it's interesting to me to a point, but like I said, it's sort of unreadable. And if we're talking about like this conversion from man to archangel, it doesn't really I don't think it really comes into play. It's talking about something else entirely. There's also another section that's all about like these parables that he's forced to talk about, which, you know, like I said again, they're interesting, but they don't like, the reason that I like this story is that it's an origin story of a superhero to me. Is this guy who's like awesome and really super devout, and he winds up falling in with these angels who are like, you look, man, we fucked up and you need to help us fix this. And then when he goes to God's like, you know what, fuck that, what are you doing trying to fix this shit? It's all over. You're up here, I'm flooding the world right now, son, but since you're here, we might as well do something with you. And so he gets transformed into this super archangel. Like, he's like the super archangel. So that's where the story is for me. That's this part that I like. However, if you read ahead, like you go to sacred text, and you read this, and you read ahead on this this Book of Enoch, where he's talking about it's this whole thing about these angels taking him around to look at the different luminaries and the different star systems and stuff. There's actually a great book that I bought years ago. I mean, it had to be like in the 90s, I think. But it's this book called Uriel's Machine, and it's from Christopher Knight and Robert Lomas. These guys, these are two guys that are out there writing. They're always writing like Mason stuff. But anyhow, they do this great job of breaking this down. I actually read this before. I actually read the Book of Enoch. So when I was going into it, like I already had like a lot of this stuff like front loaded, and they're talking about like I think they're both Freemasons. So they're talking about looking at Freemasonry rituals, like the different like trace boards and stuff, and how it like links into this ancient forgotten history. It's a great book, Uriel's Machine. Check it out. Robert Knight and Richard Lomas. Maybe I'll do like an extra thing on this or whatever. It's huge. It's a huge book. It's a gigantic book. Also, I want to also crack open my Duncan's Guide to Freemason Rituals and get into a lot of that stuff, because the flood and everything plays into that. So maybe we keep doing the podcast. Maybe we'll do that. Okay, so a lot of people were like, what? You know, I'm guessing that a lot of people are going to be like, what's with this archangel Metatron? I've never heard of this guy. Like, he's never been in a movie. That John Travolta's never played Metatron. So it's hilarious. And so I'm going to get into Metatron here a little bit before we wrap up. Just because, like I said, he's like one of my faves, and I want to leave you guys with some great, cool information. So, yeah. So hang tight. We'll get right into that. I need to lube up again. My fucking voice is going like... All right, so this is from Angels A to Z by Matthew Bunson. So this is a pretty vanilla sort of who's who to the heavenly host. There's not a whole lot of controversial stuff in this book, but this is a pretty clear-cut kind of no shit appraisal of Metatron. Metatron is one of the greatest of all angels, honored as the angel of the face. This is the way that he was portrayed in Dogma too by Hans Gruber. He was like, I'm the voice. He's like, I'm the voice of God. Like every dude that's heard the voice of God, he's actually just been talking to me. And remember when I was saying that they were or in movies they're portrayed as hermaphroditic instead of asexual? That's one of I forgot all about that. That's one of the things. He like took his pants down and just exposed like his mound, like he just didn't have any sexual organs. Oh, that's great. Okay. The angel of the presence, chief of the ministering angels, and chief recording angel, chancellor of heaven, and the angel by whom the world is maintained. Also being so mighty that he possesses 72 other names. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Few angels have been the source of such a wide-ranging body of legends and tales, but a precious few of the celestial hierarchy are credited with such majesty and power, also called Metatron, Meratron, Meta-Aaron. He was supposedly once a humble mortal being, an antediluvian patriarch Enoch. According to widely reported lore, Enoch earned such merit in the eyes of the Lord for his goodness and abilities as a scribe that he was taken to heaven, and in an event noted in the book of Genesis 5:24, Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Does that sound familiar to anybody? If the rather fanciful Books of Enoch are to believed, Enoch was transported to heaven, given a comprehensive tour of creation. He was then chosen by the Lord for an incomparable honor of being transformed into an angel, the angel Metatron. After overcoming objections of some of the other angels, Enoch was blessed by God with 1,365,000 blessings, and the transformation was begun. He was enlarged and increased size until he was nearly equal to the entire earth in length and breadth, and he received 36 pairs of wings, for 72 wings in all. And he was given 365,000 eyes. Each eye was full of the glory of the Lord, and each wing was the size of the world. The heralds of heaven then went forth across the blessed realm and announced that Metatron was to be seated at the entrance of the seventh or highest heaven, upon a magnificent throne, and all who approached the throne of God should first approach him, for he was henceforth the Prince of Wisdom and the Prince of Understanding. To make the metamorphosis complete, the Lord turned Metatron into a burning, living flame. His sinews like the hottest fire, and his eyes were torches, and his flesh the very essence of heat. After the glorious rebirth, then the angels were apparently suitably impressed, but one angel supposedly was terrified of Metatron, groveling before him and announcing that he were now of two masters in heaven. And, predictably, this did not sit well with the Lord, who is a jealous God, who ordered a slight humilification of Metatron, the angelic prince Nephiel. Yahweh flogged him 60 times with lashes of fire as a reminder that while he might be truly awe-inspiring, he was still only one angel of a heavenly host. And for why exactly Metatron was chosen for this honor, the Jewish mystical work of the Zohar stated that he was born with the divine spark of spiritual perfection that had originally been bestowed upon Adam. But when he had lost it owing to his sin, Enoch, however, was a mere mortal, so that the Lord could not permit such imperfection to remain within a member of fallen humanity. Transported to heaven, Enoch became Metatron. In order to give proper expression to his perfection, at the time, he became the foremost intermediary between God and humanity. This is what I said, the pre-Christ figure. The pre-Christ kind of thing. The link between the divine and the human, possessing experience both of earthly and heavenly. In this sense, he is also a special guardian of humanity and in chief of the so-called guardian angels of nations, as might be deduced from the Enochian tales. Metatron is one of the tallest angels in all of heaven, matched only by Nephiel and possibly Sandalphon, his brother, who, according to other tales, the one-time prophet Elijah. So they just kind of throw this away, but there's this whole other story in the Kabbalistic context that Elijah, who's seen all kinds of crazy weird stuff in his book, he was like talking to these angels who were like they were like wheels upon wheels with eyes and wings and shit, that he was also taken to heaven. He became Metatron's brother Sandalphon. So we might do an episode on Sandalphon later. As a primary task among heavenly courts is to maintain the eternal archives of the Lord, recording each and every event that transpires. Or imagine how shitty that is. But nowadays, 10 years ago, imagine how shitty you would have thought that is. Nowadays, you could just write some algorithms, pump it all through Facebook. It'd be easy. You have tea time. That's tea time. As the archives would theoretically date back to the beginning of time, one can only wonder about their size. It's thumb drive. While understandably busy with his many offices and duties, Metatron has still find time to involve himself with a host of legends. He thus appears in numerous diverse events as the angel who prevented Abraham from sacrificing his son Isaac, wrestled with Jacob, and led the Israelites under Moses out of the wilderness. One of his most dramatic, not to mention unlikely, achievements involved 2 Egyptian sorcerers who used their advanced knowledge of magic to ascend to heaven, such as their strength as that neither Michael nor Gabriel could expel them. Metatron, however, broke their spells and cast out the impudent Egyptians. For this reason, Michael is considered by some to be superior to most of the angels, including Michael, Gabriel, and Uriel.
Stigmata Studios presents The Scorpion Strikes. In this comic book, a terrorist called the Scorpion is transported to a secret CIA prison. He quickly turns the tables on the guards and administrators and releases the prisoners. A well-armed anarchist called Constituent Zero assembles a team and fights to take the prison back. This story is a dark political action thriller. The Scorpion's actions set the stage perfectly for the Jin Jihad. Available on Indie Planet. Get more info on The Scorpion Strikes, the Jin Jihad, and other titles at stigmatastudios.com. Stigmata Studios presents The Test of the Scorpion. In this comic book, while the Jin Jihad is raging on one side of the city, the terrorist called the Scorpion sets a secondary attack in motion as he obtains a small tactical nuclear bomb. A mysterious, ever-living warrior called Cyrus the Dead Guy steps forward to test the faith of the Scorpion and his lunatic followers. This is an action-adventure story. It's a bit of swashbuckler that wraps up the Jihad stories. Available on Indie Planet. Get more info on The Scorpion Strikes, the Jin Jihad, The Test of the Scorpion, and other titles at stigmatastudios.com.
Where to start with this? Yeah, I'm not going to start with it. I'm done. Don't rate and review. Don't social media me. Just keep listening. Keep listening. I don't want your fucking support. God, here we go.
bring the second skill. The second living creature said,
Send in the red one.